Now we go to the corporate governance innovative firm, and what do these people do? With Bill Lazonick from the University of Massachusetts. Please, Bill.
Okay, thanks. Okay, as you can see by my title, this is basically what I'm going to talk about. It covers a lot of territory, and some I'm going to skip over very quickly. Well, the first point is that if we want stable and equitable growth, we have to look at the U.S. economy for the last 30, 40 years as generating inequity and instability. And my argument is that this is an organizational failure, not a market failure. Okay, markets are the outcomes of economic development, not the cause of economic development. Markets do not invest in innovation. Governments, households, businesses invest in innovation. If what I have to do is new economic thinking, and I think it's not new to me, I've been doing it about 40 years. It wouldn't be new to Schumpeter, it wouldn't be new to Edith Penrose, but by the title of this session, it's new because corporations aren't in there as investing in innovation, et cetera, and they need to be put in there. Okay, now we live in a corporate economy in the United States. This is nothing new. This goes back over 100 years. It can be the work of Alfred Chandler. You can see the data here, top 1,000, 2007, 2008, $12 trillion worldwide, 31 million employees, profits down in 2008, a lot of profits in 2007. This is the framework that I use. I'm going to spend virtually no time on this. You can read papers of mine. You can look at this. But basically, there is a theory of innovative enterprise that I've written a lot about, which is the foundation for the analysis I'm going to give you, which is going to focus on what's happened in the U.S. economy. Okay, the starting point is what I call the old economy business model, where, in fact, you had strategic decision makers integrated into their organizations, building innovative enterprises, deep R&D capabilities. They valued experienced employees. You had the norm of a career with one company for salaried employees. You had employment security for shop floor workers, mainly through unions. Finance growth from retentions plus prudently leveraged long-term bond issues. Political and business and political elites supported a progressive tax structure to fund the developmental state. Okay, I've documented this transformation for the ICT sectors, which I chose because it's a leading sector, from the old economy business model to the new economy business model. And here, without going into it in any detail, are the main transitions: more flexible labor markets, capital markets. The key change institutionally is the stock market was not that important in the old economy model. It was really to separate ownership control, allow salaried managers to run the organization. It becomes very important in the new economy business model, mainly because through NASDAQ, that allows you to draw venture capital into particularly first the ICT industry, then the biotech industry, a few others, exit their investments fairly quickly, and also to attract people from old economy companies where they had secure employment to new economy companies inherently insecure in the 1980s through broad-based stock options. So I have an analysis, which again I can't talk about here to any extent, of the changing functions of the stock market, which I call creation, control, combination, compensation, and cash. I'm actually going to talk a lot about cash. Meanwhile, in the backdrop, you have the developmental state, which Bill talked about. It goes way back. The United States is the most formidable developmental state in history when it comes to developing technology. The fact that this is not known and this is not just part of the discourse is utterly amazing. You can look at the NIH. This is current. 2010 budget. $31 billion. This is triple in real terms what it was in the mid-80s, double in real terms what it was in the early 90s. That having been said, okay, this is the base. This is the base on which you can get innovation in the biotech industry, in which you have a biotech industry. When you look at the industry, as I've been doing in great detail, you see that, in fact, the industry has a lot of entrepreneurs come in on that base, but it's become highly financialized. You can make lots and lots of money and have been making lots and lots of money, at least until 2008, in the biotech industry without ever producing a product, mainly through the speculative stock market. Okay, now, meanwhile, drug prices in the United States are twice what they are in any other country. And the pharma companies go to Congress. They've been doing this for 2 decades, and they say, okay, we need these prices to fund R&D. We do all the R&D here. And here's the basic problem, which we can start by looking at this industry. The big pharma spends a huge amount of money buying back stock. So what's it buying back stock if it needs this money for R&D and charging us higher prices? Well, that's what it does with it. You add on the dividends, it's more than well over 100% of their net income. Amgen, the dedicated biotech company, going back to 1992, started purchasing its stock. It's absorbed more than its total income through to 2009. It's about 97% of its R&D outlays. Okay, now you can look at a variety of industries and see the same thing going on. So if we take ICT, we see that, for example, Intel and the Semiconductor Industry Association lobbies the government. We say we need funding on nanotechnology, otherwise America can't compete. In 1 year, in fact, when they got the lobby got hot, Intel alone spent more than the budget of the nanotechnology initiative for the whole decade. And 4.5 times the amount buying back its own stock than the whole budget. Now, Intel is a prime recipient of the past investment in computers, et cetera. It's not really playing the game anymore. It's out for itself. And I could go on about that. If you look at other companies, you see these 5 companies, you all know them. They spent $340 billion on buybacks over the past decade, $101 billion more than they spend on R&D. Go on. Oil refiners, the biggest repurchaser of stock is ExxonMobil, $164 billion in the last decade. We need alternative energy. This is what Exxon doing. The other companies are doing it as well. Healthcare insurers, low quality, high cost insurance. Every bit of profit is going to buy back their stock. We go to the banks, the Wall Street banks that failed. 2007, $182 billion in stock before that we had to bail them out. General Motors, what was General Motors doing buying back its stock? From 1986 to 2002, $20 billion. I did a calculation. When we bailed them out, they would have had $30 billion in the bank if they had just got a 2.5% after-tax return and kept it. Okay, these are the leading repurchasers, and what I've been doing in a lot of my research is going through as I've just sort of gave you snapshots, what's going on in these particular industries. In the aggregate, this is a disease. This is a disease. You can see in 2003, buybacks were $300 billion. By the way, they surpassed dividends around 1997, where this chart starts for the U.S. corporate economy. This is for the S&P 500. Average of $300 million per company, quadrupled by 2007 since coming down. They're now on the way up. In 2007, it was about $600 billion for those 500 companies. That's going to happen again. That's my prediction. Mark my words. We're in a race to spend your money on buybacks, and it becomes a competitive race to boost your stock price up. Okay, why do they repurchase stock? Companies say this is a signaling argument. You might call it a market signaling argument. We're signaling the market that we have confidence in our company. Our stock is undervalued. They never sell their stock at a higher price, because once they make that argument, they can't sell the stock at a higher price, or they're telling them, signaling to the market, our stock is overvalued. No CFO is going to do that. Oh, who sells the stock? The executives sell their stock when they exercise the stock options. Okay, there's a powerful incentive to do buybacks is the way we compensate executives in the United States. And we know that executive pay has been increasing. The ideology backing this is maximizing shareholder value. Stock buybacks are a great way to manipulate earnings per share and meet Wall Street quarterly earnings expectations. The SEC has played its role by giving companies a safe harbor from 1982, just as the long stock market boom continued, to manipulate the market, basically. In 1991, again, the SEC comes in and even eliminates the need for top executives to hold their stock options. When they exercise the stock options, to hold the stock for 6 months. Now they can sell it right away. Okay, we know these numbers. These numbers are correct because I've now calculated them, and they're consistent with these numbers, which come from CompuStat database. This is for the top 500 highest paid U.S. corporate executives. And what you can see there is, first of all, that in 2004, 2007, real pay had tripled from 1992, 1995, when it was already seen as excessive. You can also see in the column there that from stock options, that's the actual gains from exercising stock options. They're anywhere from 50 to 80% of the total. So this is the main reason for the explosion of CEO pay. Okay, what happens when the market is speculative? CEOs make money. What they've done in the last decade, however, is they've manipulated the market through buybacks. This is from Manuel Say's data. You can see that compared with the speculative boom of 1929, more recently, the high income of the top 1/10 of 1% is coming from financial income, not from property income. Okay, the speculative gains anybody who had stock options was going to make money from speculative gains in the 80s and 90s. That disappeared in the last decade. And that's because we have in the United States something they don't have everywhere else, even when they have stock options. We have unindexed stock options which have absolutely no performance criteria on them. Okay, the last decade has been manipulation. So this is that same curve I showed you for the S&P 500 companies and their stock buybacks. And this is the S&P 500 index in blue, which goes to slightly higher than its crazy level even in 2000, in 2007 before coming down. Okay, so what we've had for the last decade and a half is people making money out of speculation and manipulation, not out of innovation. Okay, this is an organizational failure. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because at the same time, over the same period of time, and I'm going to go over this very quickly, we've had a disappearing middle class. Everybody knows that. Now, this disappearing middle class is because of the changes in the way the corporations employ people. Okay, and it comes from three things, which I call rationalization, marketization, and globalization. Each of these things has occurred in basically this picture, sort of been launched in the recessions of the beginning of each of the decades, the 80, 90, the aughts. Okay, and basically what happened is that you initiate these structural changes in the way you employ people in the recession. In the early 80s, it was plant closings, mainly because of Japanese competition. You then had what I call marketization, the end of a career employment with one company, which begins in the early 1990s. Then you have globalization in 2001. Okay, the last recession, the Great Recession, was purely financialization. And the problem with recovery is all these things, plus the fact that companies are just obsessed with getting their profits up and buying back their stock, and or being able to. Okay, now what happens is in the recoveries, actually 1983 to 85 would have been a jobless recovery, except for the fact if it was just manufacturing. This is offset by the growth of the new economy. And I have some data which I'll skip over, show you that. What you had after the downturn of early 90s was companies continued to lay off older people, the end of the notion of a career employment with one company. Then you have globalization. Companies did it because they're responding to the fact that you had these capable people, educated people in China and India, and you could go there. You also had now a much more flexible system, which was actually, I should have mentioned, part of the marketization change, moving to open systems rather than proprietary systems. Okay. Basically, just skipping ahead to the marketization piece of it, because this is really where it starts hitting people with a lot of education, a lot of experience, a lot of accumulated human capital. This was IBM. You can find one company that made this transition and set the trend to a wholly different way of employing people in the US labor force. In 1990, IBM bragged about the fact that it never laid off anybody involuntarily since 1921. 1994, after it brought in Louis Gerstner, which was the reason they brought him in, for a long-term employment, permanent employment was a thing of the past. The same thing with HP. It took another decade. Unfortunately for that process, I guess, David Packard, who no longer was active in the company, wrote a book that was a bestseller, a very good book worth reading, called The HP Way in 1995, died the next year after he died. They got rid of the HP Way. Okay, globalization. We all know about globalization. We all know about China. Here, the figures for IBM, HP, and Intel. By the way, IBM and HP have quite deliberately stopped publishing these figures as, in fact, they no longer were employing people in the U.S. economy. Okay, I think I had 3 more minutes because it started at 12. Okay, I'm going to just now, here's China. Basically, there's indigenous innovation. There's a lot of innovation going on. China, the Chinese competition is real. Okay, let me now turn to the implications of this. Let's go back. No, anyway. Okay, basically, we depend on corporations to make these investments. The changes that occurred that I've talked about, marketization, rationalization, marketization, globalization, they started with productive rationales. That is, there was a change in the way competition worked, the way technology worked, the access to labor globally. The question then was, how are American corporations going to respond? If you want to have good jobs in the United States, we rely on those corporations, given the backing of the developmental state, to make those investments in good jobs. And in fact, that is not what they've done. What they've done is invested in buying back their stock, again, rationalized by the ideology of shareholder value, and, or legitimized by it, and with the benefit to the top executives of their pay packages. Now, I could give you a critique, which I've written lots about, of shareholder value on analytical terms, but I'll use Jack Welch as a proxy here. People probably know this statement he made in 2009, 2 years ago. Shareholder value is the dumbest idea in the world. And I guess the interviewer was kind of shocked by this statement, so he repeated it as a dumb idea. The idea that shareholder value as a strategy is insane, is a product of your combined efforts from management to employees. I agree. Okay, this dumb idea is a dominant managerial ideology. It's rampant among economists and business schools, executive boards, executives. There's absolutely no challenge to it, despite the fact that it is, I would say, been an application of neoclassical economic theory that is destroying the US economy. Okay, let me just end up with what we can do about this, some policy, because I could say, like Tom Ferguson, that we're screwed, and maybe we are. From the economic side, he said it from the policy, from the political side. I think if nothing's done, good jobs will continue to disappear in the United States. People can talk about it, it won't happen. So it's not just the developmental state needs to be there for clean tech, et cetera. It's for everything else that we already have in place. You'll take experienced labor, and this valuable human capital is just going to atrophy. It's happening every day, all the time. These should be seen as national treasures. People in their 40s and 50s, they're not doing the work they could do. Okay, and pretty soon they are incapable of doing it. Okay, of course, you don't have people going into STEM occupations because you make a quick killing, hopefully, on Wall Street. Okay, and you have basically with what Wall Street represents is not the whole problem, but just that speculation and manipulation have trumped innovation. So here's the policy proposals. One has to do with maintaining innovative capabilities. Regulation of employment contract ensure that workers who contribute to the innovation process share in the gains of innovation process. This is not happening. Okay. Creation of work programs that make productive use and enhance the productive capabilities of educated and experienced workers whose human capital will otherwise deteriorate through lack of relevant employment. Implementation of taxes on the gains from innovation to fund those government agencies that need to invest in the public knowledge base required for the next round of innovation. So we want some of that money back. Okay, the second set of policy proposals are rejecting shareholder value ideology. If you're going to have stock options, put strict performance requirement on them. The British have done this with their Code of Good Corporate Governance. Ban stock buybacks for well-established companies. They're just a manipulation of the market. And you have SEC regulations that could recognize this. Transform boards of directors to include social representatives who seek stable and equitable growth. Boards of directors are a travesty in this country. Reject the ideology of maximizing shareholder value. Invoke innovation theory rather than agency theory, so this is getting my theoretical perspective, new economic thinking, as an intellectual foundation for governing the corporation. Okay, there's an offer. This will require revolution in social norms. Thanks.